It's bad. Welcome to another gorgeous day on planet Earth and another day of A Dose of Did You Know, where intriguing, inspiring, unique individuals come to talk love and life and how it brought them to where they are today. And with me is very fancy Dr. Byron Davis. I feel like that's like on a TV show or something. Like
Sounds cool. Sounds cool. I'll work to get it.
But before we get started and digging right in, tell the world a little bit about, who you are. What makes you tick?
My name is obviously Byron Davis. I am a Marine Corps veteran and current law enforcement officer and, of course, founder of Dogs of War Outdoors. Several different things that I enjoy doing. I enjoy my job as a law enforcement officer, of course. I enjoy going out and doing that, helping other people. I've always dedicated my life to the service of others. And I enjoy hunting, extracurricular activities. That's one of the main things that I do. I enjoy sports. Unfortunately, I'm too chubby now to be going out and be running around doing like I used to do back in the day. I get a little winded, a little quicker now, but I enjoy doing a lot of things, playing with the girls. I've got 3 daughters. So
God bless you.
Oh yeah, I'm in some trouble. I'd say I'm definitely in some trouble whenever they get older. If they're anything like me, I'm in. So.
Oh man, girls are hard. I mean, I am one, so I know how hard we are. We are like, yeah. So thank you for raising 3 good girls.
Yeah, they're pretty. They're good. They're very disciplined. But the problem that I run into is they're a little bit beyond their age. I always try to raise them to think like an adult, I guess you can say. So they use that against me sometimes, and I'm like, you're not supposed to know that, But so
they do. Smart little boogers. I have to tell you, Andrew's out there. Andrew, thank you. You are the man. You did connect us. So hoorah to Andrew, far there. Okay, so I got to tell you, like you were talking about hunting, and I am learning. I want Andrew to hear this too. To like, what is it, like bow and arrow? Is there like a special name for that? Or you just say you're just going out and shoot with the bow, or is there like a terminology?
Call it archery hunting, it's bow hunting, whichever one you want to use.
Okay, so my son, my Marine, he has a bow, and I've never used it, and he's always gone out and done his thing. And then Travis, I call him Big Travis from Oscar Mike Radio.
I've heard of Travis. Yeah, I do.
Okay. Yeah, great guy. Another Marine. He does it all the time, and he does like 3D hunting or not hunting, but like a course and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm super stoked because he's going to come up and teach me, and I'm going to be like the female Robin Hood. This is what I'm putting on me.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, it's bow hunting's like archery, it's really fun. It's very challenging, especially if you get into the hunting world. Anytime that you hunt, like whenever I grew up, I never really knew anything about archery hunting. Always used a rifle.
Yeah.
I was probably 16 or 17 years old, which is weird because I was an avid hunter. Like I had no clue that a season in Tennessee existed prior to rifle season for deer. I was always a rifle hunter. And then I got into archery hunting, and I really don't even hunt with a rifle anymore. I haven't hunted with a rifle much in several years because it's a lot more challenging with archery. And then if you ever heard of buck fever? You ever heard of that?
No.
So buck fever is whenever you're confident in your skills and your abilities until that big buck walks out, and then you start shaking, breathing starts. Yeah, I mean your adrenaline starts going, and then some people miss. It doesn't matter how good you are, but archery, it amplifies that. I mean, you can be good with a bow, but until that 140 or 150 or 160 inch buck walks in front of you, you really never know how you're going to react. So that'd be fun for you, I think.
So I really am trying to do something that is not as harder than in my mind. Sounds great, but maybe I've bitten off too much that I could chew, but I'm going for it. I might for a long time, but.
And then we'll get you on a hunt. We'll see how you do.
There we go. I'll practice. Let me learn how to shoot it first, and at least not so it bounces back at me, because that's something like that would happen. Like, how did you end up shooting your own foot? Don't know, but
your foot looks terrible, by the way. I mean, like we'll try to get that out of there. But how did you do that? Yeah, I get.
Okay, so that's my new challenge. that you brought up. And so when I master this, Travis, you're watching, when I master this, and Andrew, we're all going, it'll be a thing. 1 or 2 years. Give me like a 1 or 2 year, like.
Let's do it. The clock starts now.
Perfect. Okay. So talk to me about Dogs of War Outdoors, because that sounds really kind of badass and cool.
So what we do, I was in the Marine Corps from 2008, 2012. While I was in the Marine Corps, what I noticed is a lot of my brothers and sisters, and it's not just males. You have primarily males, obviously, are going to be your infantry guys. But one thing that you see in the Marine Corps is that you see your Marines, doesn't matter your gender, Marines struggle with PTSD, just like your soldiers, all the way across the board, military, they struggle with PTSD. And I saw that whenever I was a young Marine in the Marine Corps. And as time went on, I started coming to these conclusions in my mind that whenever I grew up in a very stressful family myself, my family's very violent. So I dealt with issues growing up as a kid. And anytime I would run into stressful incidents, or whenever I just felt I had anxiety or I just needed to get away, I would always go to the woods. Mother Nature was always my medicine. And I had, the opioid crisis hit almost everybody. I mean, if you live in the United States, it probably touched you, and it touched my family pretty hard. I never wanted to get on any type of pills or opioids or anything like that. My dad died at 44 he was hooked on Percocets. So I never wanted to do that. So Mother Nature was always my medicine. And I took that and rolled that over into my thought process when I was in the Marine Corps, seeing my brothers and my sisters struggling with PTSD. So the thought process started then, whenever I was in the military. And as a result, that thought process just kept going throughout the years. And I wanted to see if I would be able to apply what my medicine was to other military service members. And as a result, in 2016, I was talking to a buddy of mine who's also a law enforcement officer, and which I also got into law enforcement in 2013, which is whenever I saw that PTSD is very similar across the board with military and with police officers. But at that point, that's whenever I really started seeing that, like, PTSD is a lot more complex than what people want to believe, because you have the military. Once you're in the military, and neither one is more significant than the other. And I'll be the first to tell you that they are both unique in their own way. But what I found is that in the military, whenever you go on deployment, 2 deployments, 3 deployments, combat deployments, whatever that may be, whenever you come home, the silent battle begins in your head. You lose that camaraderie that you have with other people. You lose that support system whenever you get out of the military and come home. And the military, we all know, has failed for many years on providing appropriate resources to our military veterans. And I'll get to this here in a second. We can't be treated in the same manner that a normal civilian can be treated that maybe experienced a car crash. It's just different. Our mindsets are different. How we're wired is different. The military did that. Police, fire, EMT, we're all wired differently. So I started seeing whenever I got into law enforcement that, okay, you've got military, when they come home, the silent battle begins. But then you run into law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs, who do this for 20 years. And, on average, we're seeing, 100 plus traumatic events every single year. And then that accumulates over the course of, 15, 20 years. So then I started taking that into consideration. In 2016, I was talking to a buddy of mine who's also a law enforcement officer. I said, hey, man, I've had this idea for a few years. What do you think? He's like, dude, that'd be badass. Let's do it. So in 2016, I started Dogs of War Outdoors, and started out slow and taking guys on hunts here and there. And every single veteran or law enforcement officer or firefighter, whoever it may be, that I took on a hunt was like, man, that was awesome. I mean, I took one Marine veteran out. He's a combat veteran. And, we were out there. It was raining. It started raining on us. I was like, man, this sucks. It sucks whenever you're sitting out in the field and it's raining and we're seeing turkey. It was a turkey hunt. We're seeing them, but we can't get any toms in. We're not seeing any toms. We're seeing all hens. But I was like, hey, man, it's raining. Are you ready to go? And he was like, nah, bro, I'm good. And he just sit there for hours.
What was it? I was at dinner with a Marine, and I was freezing my ass off because it had to be outside because of all this COVID crap, whatever. And they're like, here, take my hat. And I'm like, well, then you're going to be cold. And they're like, I spent 25 years being cold, wet, and miserable. I'm cool.
Good.
You are not, right? So I think it's like
Yeah.
embedded in you guys. You don't even notice it.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, we started in 2016, started taking guys out, and it kind of evolved in 2018. Like I was paying for all this out of my own pocket, which I don't mind. I don't want any of that money back ever. Anything to help my brothers and sisters, I will do it, because I struggle myself from time to time, so I understand those guys. And the problem we're running into with the VA is a lot of those guys that are treating our brothers and sisters, they don't understand what they think they do because they have a degree that says they do.
Right.
But the degree may say one thing, but their ability to take care of me and my guys and my gals says something else. So in 2018, we started a nonprofit Dogs of War Foundation, and we've been rolling out ever since, going out, hooking and jabbing, taking these guys on hunts, outdoor adventures. It's not just that, it's like something, how we started out sometimes is we just built a fire. I had a Carolina cooker that I found. It was like made in like the early 1900s. It was rusted up. Somebody sold it for like $25. I bought it, took a steel brush to it, seasoned it real good with some Crisco, threw it over a fire. We started throwing chili in it. We got about 20 or 30 people out there and cooked some chili and just chowed down around the fire and drank some beer, it's just that we've got a theory that we developed that there's three things that veterans and first responders need not to end them in their lives. It's camaraderie, which is what we lose whenever we get out of the military a lot of times. Comfort, which is knowing that you have my back and I have your back. I'm safe. I don't have to be looking over my shoulder constantly. I can relax, right? Yeah. Then you've got adrenaline. We don't need adrenaline 24/7, 365. We just need it every once in a while. And that's what our
Oh, I like that, because it is when you live in a state of like high adrenaline all the time, like that fight mode, which that's what the military and first responders, that's what they're trained to do and live in that state. And then you come back and I get this, I hear this a lot, that they want to take away that adrenaline. Like it's not good for you to have that experience, but you need it. It's part of who you are in that feeling. And so when you try to remove any sort of that in your life, that causes darkness within you,
yeah. I mean,
and sadness.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you're taking these guys that you turn into absolute predators. That's what we are trained to do whenever we're in the military. We're predators. And if you see a predator out, in the animal kingdom, we're not going to back down. We're going to go out. We're going to do what we're trained to do. And then you pull us out of the fight and you say, hey, okay, have a good life, and we're like, what next? And then we go out here. That's why I got into law enforcement. It's because I seek that adrenaline, and some guys don't have the opportunity like I do to get into law enforcement. Some guys can't, they're disabled. Their bodies are broken from the military and they just can't do it, and that's why we step in and we try to get these guys out here to get that adrenaline rush and try to get them what they need to live and not take their own lives. And we also want that camaraderie piece. We want people to reach out to us and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you help? And we're like, absolutely, man, we can help. We've got resources. That's why, we got Andrew. We've got several people. We've got Travis with Oscar Mike. We got people. We try to build a network all over the United States to where if somebody reaches out to me from, say, Oregon, says, hey, I'm having this issue, can you help? Absolutely, I can help. And I'll get them in contact with somebody in Oregon. So that's why we're trying to build that network.
Yeah. I was thinking when you were talking and you had this like neat perspective, because most guys don't see when they first go in, they're so young and, they don't see that the PTSD, they don't see the struggle happening there. Do you think you just had a different perspective because of your family and the way you grew up? So you kind of you knew what to look for, or maybe you weren't even looking for it, but you knew like, ooh, that's going to lead somewhere down a bad path. You could see like the behaviors or the way they spoke.
Yeah. Well, I was 22 whenever I went in. So I was a little bit older. I was 22. And of course I do think, my family experience, I probably had a little bit to do with that. Like I said, I grew up in a very violent family, and, our family, it was not uncommon to come home and just somebody be brawling. It was, and that's my uncles, my cousins, grandmother, it was crazy growing up, and it was like that for years, and so I definitely had a little bit different perspective whenever I went in. I was a little bit more composed I guess you can say I didn't really know what to expect, but I guess you can say I knew how to handle myself a little bit better. I was still very emotional whenever I was younger. I kind of grew out of that. The Marine Corps got me out of that. I was always just how I was raised. I was always, ready to just brawl, ready. And obviously, you're not going to come in and do that in the military because you get your ass kicked. Well, you'll learn really quick that you're nothing compared to what the guys that are training you. But yeah, I was kind of prepared for it. But while I was in it, I had my mind made up whenever I was in the Marine Corps. Whenever I first went in, that I was going to finish my doctoral degree and help some of these guys out, because I knew what I was seeing with our system. Our system isn't quite prepared to offer the treatment necessary to get these guys help.
No, I also think a couple of things. I think the system is like you're in this box, right? Doctors are great, but they're only trained for this one thing. And if you think that they're trained outside of that, it's an ignorant, thought. In my opinion, they're very good at what they do, or decent at what they do, depending on the doctor. But don't make them try to do something that's outside of their realm. So I think a lot of the system has to kind of let go of their control to realize all of these other things, like your foundation, your nonprofit, or the scuba one. I know that Andrew does scuba dive. I mean, he does a ton of stuff, so I can just, all of these things make a difference and make a change. It's not all just wrapped up into what you learned in medical school, or, by giving them some sort of, pill. Like when you were talking about the opiates, when I had my car accident, I was like crippled in bed, like I was paralyzed in bed. And they said, like, you have to take this medicine. Your body's shutting down because you're in so much pain. I'm like, I'm not doing it. Finally did it. And, but there was a turning point. And I think, like, I knew it from my own history, but there was a turning point where I could feel my body needing that medicine. Like, it did not want to go into that. And I said, oh, this is where people get addicted. This is when that happens, because without it, you're going to be in so much pain, right? But so you crave it because nobody wants to live in that state of mind. It's even when you have PTSD, you want to get rid of it because no one asks for it. No one says here. So any time that you can get some relief, whether it's a good way or a bad way, you go for it. We're human beings, but it takes that certain someone to either, like I threw them all away and I just learned how to manage my own pain. But it's a rare, because we don't want to live in that state.
And that's probably one of the best decisions you ever made, because once you get on an opiate, opioids rewire your brain to the point to where it's almost irrecoverable. And I see that a lot right now as a law enforcement officer with heroin. The heroin has spiked throughout the United States. But one of the biggest issues we're running into, and getting back to those that are attempting to treat our military veterans and our first responders, it's not just military veterans. We're all wired very similar. Just our exposure that's a little bit different. And the issue we're running into is trust. You're not going to send me to a doctor that's never served in the military and expect me to trust an individual to treat me. And not to mention, most of your doctors in like say in the VA or even in private practice, they're all trying traditional methods to treat us. Those traditional methods don't really work. And you got to take into consideration also that we have very little understanding of PTSD. Very, very little. We didn't start really delving into PTSD until the 1980s, whenever we began seeing our Vietnam veterans struggling. Now, we've known, even the Bible talks about PTSD. It talks about a form of PTSD. We had PTSD in the Civil War. We had PTSD in World War I and World War II. It's evolved throughout the years, but we never really started studying PTSD until the 1980s, whenever our Vietnam veterans were struggling. So we still really don't understand anything about it. And everyone continues to, all the professionals attempt to place these traditional methods on the military population, and they just don't work. And we don't trust those individuals to go out and treat it. Because if I come in and I sit down in front of a therapist, by the way, we have a therapist with Dogs of War who specializes in this. She does not use the traditional methods. Her name is Amy Benedict. She's been doing it since 2002. She is a beast at treating veterans. But It's like if you bring me in and you sit me down in front of say a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and they say, "Hey, I'm here for you. I'm gonna treat you. I'm gonna hypnotize you or whatever they method they try to use." And I'm gonna say, "Have you ever served in the military?" Well, no, sir, I haven't. Okay, have you ever experienced anything traumatic in terms of gunfight? Have you ever experienced anything in terms of a combat situation on the street where somebody's trying to kill you? Like, well, no, I've never really experienced that. Basically, you're telling me that I can't trust you. How can you treat me if you don't understand what's going on in my mind? You say you do from a theoretical standpoint, but from experience, you don't.
Well, I think that goes back to like us as humans. I always say we're so simplistic, and all of these things go back to our primitive behaviors of majority of people will take what they learned and they know and their knowledge and then apply it into whatever field they are. So it's exactly what you're saying. So if you cannot relate, you can try. And you might have tools that you've been taught to, but the actual relating and how you're going to implement them are not going to be the same because you haven't experienced, and we act through our experience in our life. I know exactly when I'm coaching people and I have not been in their shoes or I will tell them like, look, I can understand what you're saying to me and do this, but I have never actually experienced anything in that realm. So it's going to be my opinion, but I'm not going to be able to relate. I can understand, but I'm not going to be able to relate. Two totally different things. And I think professionals need to be able to say that.
Yeah. And it's not saying like you may have professionals out there that can treat a veteran very well, but as well as I do as a coach, I'm also a coach. But the first thing you have to do with your client is you've got to build trust. And military veterans are the world's worst at not trusting anyone. There's you've got General James Mattis, who has one of the best sayings ever in the history of the military. Whenever he said, "Be kind, be professional, but have a plan to kill everyone you meet." He says that because he's basically saying that you can't trust anybody. And what I tell my clients, what I do as a coach is I specialize in teaching individuals how to recognize and combat narcissism early before you get into that relationship to the point of where you're emotionally invested and it's difficult to get out. So I teach them how to recognize it within the first week or so. That way they can pull on that relationship. But
fascinating.
Yeah, essentially you have to build that trust. And the first lesson that I teach everybody, and it sucks to have to live this way nowadays, it really does, but this is the society we are in now, is that, and I tell my daughters this, I tell every one of my clients this, never lend your trust to anyone. Always make them earn it. Always. You can lend your respect to someone. Everyone should come into your life with, if you don't know them, you should automatically lend them some sort of respect until they break that respect. But trust, you never trust anyone. You always make someone earn your trust.
Okay, so I have this, and I live by this. It's so important for me to live by leading with love, right? And it took me a long time to recognize that you can lead with love and you can give love because I believe we're supposed to. I believe that's what God teaches. But that does not mean, kind of like what you're saying, that other person needs to be in your life, that other person needs to even receive it or be able to give back to them. But you have to move and walk with that because it's a representation of who you are and what you want coming back. But stop trying to put that on somebody else, right? Does that make sense? It kind of reminds a different way of saying what you're saying, a different kind of concept of that.
Yeah, and if I'm going to go out here and if especially you got to lead by example. If you're going to go out and teach something that, first of all, if you're going to teach one of your clients something, you've got to believe it yourself. If you don't believe what you're teaching them, they're going to pick up on that. And I teach people this also. I teach body language. And I'm actually working on a course. I actually have a course right now on the recognition and combating narcissism, but I also teach child bullying, but I'm working on a course right now on that, how to teach your child how to avoid bullying. But in terms of, the aspect of building trust with someone, if I'm not confident in what I'm teaching you, you're going to be able to pick up on that on a subconscious level. Every one of us have the ability to, body language is approximately 80% of all human communication. And whenever I'm speaking with you, if I'm not confident in what I'm saying, my subconscious is going to be projecting itself toward you through my body language, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's one thing I teach everybody is on a subconscious level, we all have the ability to read body language and understand an individual, what an individual is saying. The problem is most of us we do not have the ability to translate our subconscious recognitions into conscious comprehensions. And that's what I've taught myself to do. I've always been a student of human behavior. Since I was a little kid, I've always watched people. My mom was always like, stop staring. I wasn't staring at them.
You're the weird kid that's staring everybody down.
Yeah, I wasn't doing it because they looked weird. I was intrigued by why they were doing what they were doing. And I was trying to figure out, and I have no clue why. Maybe it was intuition. I don't know. I would always try to figure out if I saw a couple of people talking across the room, I was always trying to figure out what they were talking about. It's weird. I'm a weird kid. I really was. I was different. But that's the way I was, and our subconscious is ridiculous in what we can pick up on. So it's important that if you're going to teach somebody something, and if you're going to tell somebody something like I'm doing right now with Dogs of War, I'm confident in what we have to offer. I'm confident in what other organizations have to offer. Oscar Mike, the Fallen Outdoors, what Andrew has to offer. I mean, I'm confident in all that. I'm more than happy to send whoever comes to me and says, hey, I can help. More than happy to send them to those guys because I know they're trying to accomplish the exact same mission that I'm trying to accomplish, and I'm very confident that we can be successful.
I have to. We went over, but I got to bring this up. So, do you feel, because it is body language is huge in how we talk to each other, right? It's again, we're just like animals, Animals, they right?
They communicate. That's the only way they communicate.
Right. So I feel so much lack of humanity and communication is broken because we don't use our words and we don't go face to face anymore. It's all like through texting and things like that. Yep. And so people interpret what they're reading by what they're feeling subconsciously, either about them, first about themselves, which then relates into the relationship that they are in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, zero tone or context to a text message.
And do you believe, I kind of believe that it comes from how you receive it is what is exactly going on inside you at that moment. Yeah, or you might not even understand what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no tone, which is, tone is quite a bit of percentage also in nonverbal communication, so there's no tone, there's no context to that text message, so if you sense, I agree 100%, it's, our technology has kind of gotten us away from where we need to be. So in a way, we're kind of getting worse on our ability to communicate on a nonverbal level. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Right. So I think anybody who's out there, this is my tip, my own personal tip. When I read something, a text message from somebody, I take it for face value. If it makes me feel a certain way, I'm always like, why am I feeling this way? I have no idea what this person is. Why am I putting my crap in there like words that they strung together through this computer? Like that's my own little.
No, 100%. Yeah, no, I agree, and that's why we also I try not to react. I always try to think about something whenever something happens. A lot of people react emotionally. They. Let's say, for example, somebody sends a text message, they read that text message, they're like, how dare they say that to me, when instead of taking, into consideration that there are 50 other meanings out there for that text message, and that could be applied anywhere,
Right.
So, people tend to react with emotion quite often, and we need to kind of take a step back from that for sure.
Take it back and get down to the real things. Hang out in the woods. My son loves hanging out in the woods. Like he was always like that as a kid, actually. Just that is his happy place, alone with woods, desert, doesn't matter. Just like him and earth.
Yep. That's me all day.
Yeah. So I can see. Do you see how, because you put in extra things, and my last question, I swear, that you go on this, you take them out, you go through this hunt, they feel whatever they need to receive from it, and they go. And now you're at a place that you have things for when they leave that they can still be connected, or different, because that happens a lot of times. You'll go on this hike, and then what? or you'll go out and hunt, and then what? You're great for a moment. So what do you guys have in place, if anything, or is it just like collaboration with other groups?
So we have collaboration. We may try to get them in contact with other guys and other organizations if they're like from out of state or something. But if they're from this area, we have a couple different properties that we can go to. We have a northern property, which is closer to Nashville. It's actually in Leapers Fork, that a family lent to us for us to come up there. And then we have a place, we have 114 acres that we have in southern Middle Tennessee. But what we have is because of COVID, we had to people started getting sick and flu season and stuff. But probably this spring, we're going to start it back up again where, like I said earlier, we build this fire. It's every weekend we're going to try to get into. At first, it was every other weekend. We're going to try to do it every weekend to where we build this fire. We throw this big Carolina cooker over it, cook some chili, cook some deer stew, rabbit stew, whatever the case, and we eat. We just chill. We have that camaraderie and that comfort with each other, and we sit around. We may drink some beer. If you don't want beer, we got sweet tea, and we just eat and we chill and we shoot the shit and just talk.
Very cool. Yeah, I thought that was a one-time thing. I didn't realize that was going on. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Smart. So a couple things. I am going to be, actually, Travis and I are going to be at the Boondocks on the 16th of January for a veteran fundraiser where they take, let's say you are you play hockey and things like that. Well, you as the veteran come and teach the youth, the 15 and 16-year-olds, like all the skills, not just on the ice, but everything else that you have to give value. And then those kids are the ones that are going out and competing all over the world. So it's kind of like this cool thing. So if you're around at the Boondocks,
I'll reach out to Andrew. I may be there. I may come up.
Yeah, it's fun. Music, a bunch of music. Chris Turner, the Marine, Chris Turner. He's a musician, singer.
I don't know him personally. I've heard of him though. Yeah, I do know him.
Yeah, he's one of the guys playing and stuff like that. So it's going to be a cool time. We'll be all hanging out and everything. So hopefully I'll see you not next weekend, but the weekend after. God, that's coming up.
It is. It's 2021, by the way.
Oh God!
It's the next year.
So before I let you go, I ask you that you answer this question with the first thing that comes to your mind. It's got to be the first thing. Don't overthink it. And I don't need an explanation either unless you want to give it. But in this moment right now, Byron, what does love mean to you?
Compassion. Just compassion. Being there for the other individual.
Love it. Perfect.
Try to answer as quick as possible. That's the first thing come to my mind. So.
Yeah, no, it is, because I believe that love is it's a moving entity. It's not just one thing that you can say in a word. I think it constantly evolves and changes, and depending on where you are in that moment. So I'm always like, it's something that I do. Oh. It's my jam. It's my question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It's my question. Well, I hope to see you in a couple weeks. If not, I'll be back in February. So maybe I'll see you then. And I did see in the feed, Travis said 8 months. 8 months, and we're going out hunting. He's gonna teach me and do all this in 8 months. So my 1 to 2 year goal just got
condensed.
Condensed, which means I'll have to be doing a lot of practice. I'll send pictures. It'll be fun. I'll send videos.
We're going.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. And to everybody else out there, remember, as always, love hard, love pure, and love proactive. Until next time, take care.